Moving forward, this is a good one. A good, hard, nasty SEC rivalry. Number 11, Tennessee, a 6.5 point favorite on the road at the Florida Gators. This one carries an over-under 58.5 points. Kicks off at 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. I believe this is where... No, College Game Day is going to be in Boulder. They passed on this one. Okay, sure, if they say so. There is a rain potential here for this game as well, between 20 and 40% during the game. We'll see. Again, that can change. May not rain a drop. May get a downpour. Who knows? For Tennessee, they're starting offensive center Cody Mays. He missed last week. Their starting linebacker Kawaze Garland is out for the season as well. That's a new development. So a couple of big injuries there for Tennessee, at least for Mays to monitor to see if he's going to play or not. Losing your center, that's the captain of your offensive line. That's a big deal if he's not playing. On Florida's side, they're either super honest or they're the most beat-up team in the country. I'm not sure which it is. They have 8 guys listed as questionable for Saturday and 3 additional guys that are done for the year. Either their strength and conditioning coaches need to step it up or be replaced, or they need to quit reporting every time somebody comes to the sideline for some ice on his hand, because that seems what Florida's doing at this point. Tennessee has not exactly faced a murderer's row of defenses in Virginia and Austin Peay. But Joe Milton doing the exact opposite of what I expected him to do. Low yards per attempt, low ADOT. I'm sorry, his Heisman campaign's over. And that sucks because I had a Heisman flyer on Joe Milton. He's not going to do it. I still don't really know a lot about Tennessee given their opponents. I mean, for all intents and purposes, that Austin Peay game was a massive disappointment. I know there was a lot of rain in Rocky Top. I know it was kind of a weird game, and I don't know if that one got delayed or not. It may have. But, not the best showing from the Vols in that game there. They have a high rushing success rate right now, but again, we're talking about the 3rd worst rushing defense in the entirety of the FBS, and Austin Peay, who's not exactly in my top 5 FCS ratings. Florida faring better than I thought. I was ready to call them DOA, but again, I think we'll find out a little bit more because they had one not so great performance from Graham Mertz against Utah, although I thought he was fine. He wasn't great, but he was fine. Missed a couple of throws, of course, typical Graham Mertz stuff. And then they played McNeese, so I don't think we learned a lot from that. But I'd like to know what your numbers say about this, because there's a lot of question marks, I think, for these two SEC East rivals.
There are. And before I get to the game, Brett, I don't usually wade into the Heisman waters, but I do just want to say, I understand what you're saying. He hasn't had a great start to the year. Tennessee, for as long as they are in SEC championship game contention, their quarterback, because of what this offense has the potential to be, will be in the Heisman Trophy conversation. Not saying he's going to win it, but as long as they're staying in contention for the East, which my numbers are projecting that they will for a good long time, he's got to be at least on the periphery of that conversation. I know he hasn't played up to the level that we expected or that you were hoping, but just keep that in the back of your mind. I wouldn't call it dead just yet. We haven't seen the L's pile up, and historically, if you're a quarterback of a team at the top, you're going to be at least in the conversation with a good chance to make it to New York. This is my number 2 game of the week per my watchability score, so I wrote about this one for thelines.com. I have Tennessee minus 4.5 with a 62% win expectancy. Even though Tennessee didn't look great last week against FCS McNeese, and they're down a point in my ratings and 5 spots in my rankings from the preseason, I still have the Volunteers as the biggest threat to Georgia in the East, which is why I think Milton is still in that Heisman conversation, at least for now. The offense is still top 10 nationally, so there you go, another point for Milton. And the defense has actually been better than I expected, rising from number 35 to number 29 in my national unit ranks. While Tennessee is my number 2 projected team in the East, Florida is number 3. And a win for the Gators this week would flip those numbers right around and make Florida the biggest contender to challenge Georgia in terms of chances to make it to Atlanta. The model's been pretty dialed in on the Gators. They have fallen just a half a point from number 25 to number 31, while the offense has remained in the 20s and the defense has remained in the 40s. I'm projecting a wash, basically, between the number 29 Florida offense and the number 29 Tennessee defense. The difference for me in this one is that it's the number 8 Tennessee offense against the number 44 Florida defense. That said, and I can't overemphasize this enough, the Volunteers have lost 9 in a row in the Swamp since their last win in Gainesville back in 2003, and I do expect the Gator faithful in the stands to be out in full force to ensure that this Volunteer team doesn't forget that. So I'm just putting that out there. Going on the road is one of the hardest things to do in college football, and to get a win's even harder. You're doing it to a place you haven't won in 20 years. Bottom line, the numbers like Tennessee minus 4.5, but there's a 38% chance that Florida pulls off the upset at home and keeps that streak alive.
I know when it comes to the betting market, and I know when it comes to power ratings, we don't always take those factors into account, but it's naive to think that the Tennessee Vols don't realize that they haven't won in Florida in 20 years.
I mean, some of the kids on the roster weren't even born, Brett.
A lot of them haven't.
Yeah. The last time Tennessee won at Florida.
Seriously, and that is a real thing that should be taken into handicap. Now, that is a trend that I believe does play into how I would see this game. Now, the whole Tennessee hasn't won on the road when the temperature is between X and Y at certain time of day on certain network, that is not an actionable trend. But saying, hey, they just go into Gainesville and lose, yeah, you can say, well, they're different teams. But, dude, 20 years. They've had all sorts of teams. Both of these guys have had all sorts of teams over 20 years. So I think that's a very important note. I think that's a great note. And the market agrees. The lines moved in favor of Florida through 7. Very notable movement there, of course. I'm interested to see what it does in the late week because I think that's more telltale than early in the week when you have lower limits. Once those high limits come in, again, I said on the last episode, but sometimes pros will artificially bet down lines with low limits early in the week so that they can come back with a more favorable line and bet it with higher limits. It's called a head fake. I don't know if that's happening here because, again, your numbers favor Florida a bit on the market. And that streak of 2003, I think I was in the 3rd grade at that point. That is the last time that they had won in Gainesville. So not to put an age on myself here, but if I had to lean in this game, I think I'd actually lean under 59, despite both teams running a blistering pace. Tennessee, 3rd fastest, 18.9 seconds per play. No surprise there. Florida, 9th with 21.5 seconds. That's a bigger surprise to me. I'm moving pretty quickly. I just don't love either way offense. Either offense is running right now. And to expect Tennessee's, you said, 8th best offense to go into Gainesville and perform that way, I'm a little bit more bearish on the ability for them to do that than if they were at home. So if I had a lean here, I think it'd be under 59. 59 is a key number. If you can get it there, but probably under.